The town of Farmingdale is under Zeds' attack. In the suburbs, the Zeds have overrun a village and are about to fall upon Beauville. In the highway, they've taken Ingeborg, the nuclear plant, and are approaching downtown. Meanwhile, Farmingdale General Hospital is at full capacity, and Colonel Kingman has a nasty surprise for the Zeds coming in from the forest. Mountain Night Assault. No refugees will move this time. The Rangers could move, but they decide to stay at Lefty's Pass. To the infection check, the level is so low, an outbreak is impossible. To the eat phase, and we have our hospital full, and also one refugee unit in the refugee camp. The die roll is at 2, and one supply point is lost. On to the Zeds phase, and before moving any Zeds, the infection level increases by 1 for each Zeds unit in the mountain track. There's 1, so the infection level is now 2. And a new Zeds unit appears in that track's starting space. And it has a strength of 6, and now we got ourselves a Zeds mob. And we will receive no terrain shifts during this phase. The Zeds on the mountain track move. They move forward, and they cause no combat, fortunately for us. We have 1 event action, and the Rangers execute a gunfire attack on the advancing Zeds mob. The result is 3 hits. 1 unit is eliminated, and the mob only has now a strength of 5. Next is our player action. El Toro Loco forages for ammo at the Lucky Strike mine, and he gathers 1 point of ammo. And we now have 5 once again. At the refugee camp, a group of refugees is equipped into fighting civilians. And those civilians start at town center. The Savior Corps now uses its special ability to heal nearby units, and the fire department auxiliaries are healed. And they return now to town center. We lose 1 supply point, but the infection level also goes down by 1. The leadership ability of Sheriff Hunt is wasted on a foraging attempt by the civilians at Beauville, and Deputy Schmidt, using his initiative, fares no better in foraging for supplies or ammo. Our latest efforts seem not enough to stop these advancing Zeds. In the forest track, 2 Zed mobs are about to fall upon the mall district. Colonel Kingman has a little surprise in store. Will it be enough to stop these Zeds? Brains. A full-scale, coordinated Zeds assault. First, the infection level is increased by 3, and it is now at 4. All Zeds will move forward. Those that engage in hand-to-hand combat and win will move forward again. And if they engage in hand-to-hand combat, they will continue advancing. The highway track. The forward Zed mob advances 1 space closer to downtown. And the 2 Zed units on that track also advance. Fortunately, no combat is caused there for now. In the mountain track, the Zeds there attack Lefty's Pass. The Rangers will do the fighting, and they have a 1-column shift to the right in hand-to-hand combat, giving them a marked advantage and inflicting on the Zeds 3 hits. The Zeds retreat. The infection level is now at 5. On the suburbs, 3 Zed units, including the powerful toxic Zeds. Zeds at the university advance and engage in hand-to-hand combat with Sheriff Hunt, who has a marked advantage. The Zeds suffer 3 hits and head back to the university. Beauville is safe for now, but the infection level is now at 6. The toxic Zeds advance and join the defeated Zeds at the university to form a Zeds mob. And the remaining Zeds unit advances. Next, to the dangerous forest track. The forwardmost Zeds mob falls upon the minefield, but Colonel Kingman uses his defensive perimeter ability to try to cancel this Zeds move. The roll is a 6, and the Zeds move is thwarted, so they return to where they came from, causing a traffic jam that prevents the other Zeds mob from advancing, as well as the 7th strength point Zeds unit behind. And that's the end of this all-out offensive. Having survived the Zeds onslaught, next is another Brains offensive. All Zed units will advance once again. This time, the infection level is increased only by 1, and it is now creeping at 7. And now all Zeds move forward. If they fight and win, they continue moving forward until who knows what. Suburbs, a Zeds mob that includes the dangerous, toxic Zeds, attacks Beauville. Again, Sheriff Hunt has to do the fighting. This time, the odds are not that favorable. It's an equal match. And the Zeds cause 2 hits on the Sheriff. He has a special ability. He can re-roll the dice, and he will exercise that ability. And this time, the result is even worse. Sheriff Hunt suffers 4 hits. His tough ability cancels hits with rolls of 4 or more. He only cancels 1 hit. The remaining hits are enough to eliminate him, but his saving die roll lands him somehow in the hospital, unconscious. He may come back. Civilians retreat, and the villagers now become fleeing refugees. Beauville is in the hands of the Zeds, spreading chaos there and raising the infection level to a very dangerous 11. Now, with the Brains attack on full switch, the mob of Zeds advances again and attacks the civilians. The Zeds have the numbers, and wipe out the civilians. Their saving die roll, however, lands them in the hospital in comatose condition, but the hospital is full, so the unconscious refugees are disconnected. Tough choices indeed. So that the newly arrived civilians can be treated. Meanwhile, the villagers of Beauville, now turned into refugees, are devoured by the ferocious Zeds. Their saving die roll is no good, and they end up in the cemetery. And this victorious Zeds mob seems unstoppable. With the all-out brains offensive, they advance one more, and this time they take control of the Farmingdale suspension bridge, spreading chaos there. And these Zeds are now 2 moves away from town center, and the infection level reaches 13, causing an uncontrolled outbreak in the suburbs, where a Super Zeds unit appears at Beauville with a strength of 7 and the brain's ability to move forward after their triumphant in hand-to-hand combat. We save the Adrenaline Supply Discover card for later use. The infection level now goes down 10 levels to level 3. Meanwhile, on the mountain track, the previously defeated Zeds charge once again. This time the Rangers are waiting for them and inflict 3 hits on the advancing Zeds, enough to wipe them out. The Rangers take 1 hit. Infection level is now at 4. Continuing with the Zeds' brain onslaught, in the forest track, the Zeds mob advances once again upon the minefield. Colonel Kingman, with his defensive perimeter ability, tries to push them back, but he fails this time. Falling upon the minefield attacks the Zeds with devastating power. 3 hits, reducing one of the Zeds units. And this time, the surviving Zeds fight it out with the civilians at very favorable odds for the Zeds. The civilians are wiped out. Their saving die roll is no good, and they end up in the cemetery. Colonel Kingman is forced to retreat to the Mall District. And the Zeds, continuing with this brains all-out offensive, advance upon the Mall District. Colonel Kingman uses his defensive perimeter ability to try to stop them, and fails once again. This time, Colonel Kingman has to do the fighting, but his hunker-down ability gives him 1 column shift to the right in hand-to-hand combat, giving him the advantage. And he inflicts 3 hits on the advancing Zeds, wiping out 1 Zeds unit and forcing the survivors back onto the minefield that attacks them again, and this time causes 2 hits, enough to reduce the Zeds to 1 sorry group of confused zombies. The infection level, however, is now at 6. Meanwhile, in the forest track, the second Zeds mob advances, and the lone unit at St. Thomas enters the farm. And now to the highway track, where there is a Zeds mob about to fall upon downtown and Deputy Schmidt. The odds here, with Deputy Schmidt's Eagle Scout ability that gives him 1 column shift to the right, is an equal fight. And Deputy Schmidt manages to inflict 2 hits on the Zeds while suffering 1, enough to make these Zeds retreat. Downtown is safe for now, but the infection level is now at 7. The rest of the Zeds on the highway track advance towards town center. And so this second Zeds offensive ends, with no Zeds on the mountain track, clearing the path for Mr. Johnson to move towards town center. In the mountain track, the first Zeds mob has been reduced to shambles, but more Zeds are on their way. On the highway, the advancing Zeds mob has been pushed back with a bloody nose, but they remain strong and too close for comfort to town center. Meanwhile, the cemetery is filling up. And in the suburbs, dangerous toxic Zeds approach downtown, followed closely behind by super Zeds with brains. An identified mob appears. And now, depending on the infection level, a super Zeds will appear, which is not good, or the VIP survivors, if the infection level is 7 or lower. And the current infection level is 7. So the VIP special refugees appear. And they appear wherever we want. So, it won't be on the suburbs track, too many zombies, as well as the forest track and the highway track. Fortunately, the mountain track has no Zeds at all, and that's where the VIPs will appear. And what makes these refugees so special? If they reach town center, we can reset the infection level to 0, or heal all our units to full health, or take 4 supplies and 2 ammo points. Everything's good. Now we'll save this card, Killdozer, for later. It'll give us a 2-column shift to the right in a close combat fight. Now to the 4R phase. The only refugees are the VIPs, so they move 1 space towards Lefty's Pass. And the Rangers move into the Lucky Strike Mine. Now to the infection phase. The level is 7. Luckily, there won't be an outbreak this time. No supply points are lost in the Eat phase, and the Zeds move in the mountain and highway tracks. Because there's no Zeds on the mountain track, a new Zeds unit appears there. And now movement in the dangerous highway. The leading Zed mob falls again upon downtown, and it is Deputy Schmidt who will do the fighting. His Eagle Scout ability gives him the advantage in combat, and he repulses these Zeds who suffer 3 hits and are reduced to just 1 unit. The Zeds retreat. The infection level creeps now to 8. The remaining Zeds on the highway advance, and again we have another Zeds mob in front of downtown. We have 3 event actions. Dangerous Zeds mob about to enter suburbia. We have to scramble. And the recently healed fire department auxiliaries move in to fill the gap. Our second event action is used to move a group of civilians to the mall district with Colonel Kingman. They will be facing the Zeds coming from the forest track. And the VIP refugees move into Lefty's Pass. Deputy Schmidt uses his initiative to fire upon the advancing Zeds mob. He causes 2 hits, and that Zeds mob is still a formidable foe. The Savior Corps uses its field medical station to heal Sheriff Hunt, who is now conscious, although at a reduced state. And in our last event action, the fire department auxiliaries use their fire hoses ability to try to push back one of the Zeds unit in the mob in front of suburbia. They aim for the lower Zed strength unit and must roll higher than their strength. The roll is a 7, and the Zeds mob is split. With scores of powerful Zeds units about to enter the town, it seems that a miracle is needed to save Farmingdale this time. Stay tuned for the next episode of Dawn of the Zeds Apocalypse Level.